our sermon today. And our sermon every Sabbath concerns the well-being and the future of mankind. What our role is in having a hand in that, and what God's role is in strengthening us to be able to get this done. We are the singing Levites. We are the descendants of Moses and Zipporah. Our job is to shine that light wherever we go. And the important thing is that we not forget where we're at. And in order to not forget where we're at, we have to understand where we come from and who this mighty God, the Lord God of Israel, who this is that we're serving and how this all came about, why we're in this struggle to begin with. The first should be last and the last should be first. And right now, we're in a season on this planet where you're about to find out what's going to happen next. It's all unfolding before our eyes. And if you don't know what happened in the beginning, you can't tell what's going on now. And if you don't know what's going on now, you surely can't have an idea of what's going to happen next. And I'm going to try to give you a condensed version and where we fit into all this at. You see, a long time ago, some people came to this planet, and here we go, talking about these aliens again. These angels came down here, and some of them were going to do the will of God, and some of them weren't. The ones that weren't said that they wanted to enslave mankind and make more intelligent slaves so that their sons and daughters could be born with indentured servants for the rest of their lives. Now, that's not what God sent them down here for, but that's what they did. And we know that, God knows what everybody's going to do before they do it. And God makes lemonade out of lemons all the time. So God knew what they were going to do. And even though what they were going to do fit into God's plan, their intentions were ill, but the results were positive. And so what they did is they genetically enhanced mankind, and they enslaved us. And you can look that ever since then, those people have been enslaving us. And it's people that don't look like the people that are originally from this planet. They look a little different, and they're from a different environment, and you can tell that this environment has an adverse effect on their appearance and their well-being. And so they had to make adjustments on this planet to make it more livable for them. But the point is that they enslaved us from the beginning, and they taught us about making war against each other. And that was designed to keep us divided all the time, to keep us separated, to keep us opposing each other, to keep us going against each other. And that's what we have to overcome. That is important now, even more important than it was before. Whatever doesn't kill us will make us stronger. And we had to experience those things in order to have the strength that we have now to overcome these odds and make happen what we need to happen. You can tell, this prophecy that they had has already unfolded, because you can see around the world that every continent has been enslaved, and every type of mankind on this planet has been overrun by these people. And they all look the same, and they don't look like us. And so what we have to do first of all is we have to forgive them for what they did, because it's not their fault. It was an opportunity. And as humans, we seem to be opportunistic kind of people. We seem to be a type of being that goes after monetary gain, because that's what we saw them do. When they came here, one of the things they wanted is they were looking for gold. And the gold was precious. The gold represented great wealth. And now you see in today's world, gold is still the main monetary value worldwide. No matter what currency they use, gold still holds its value, no matter where you go. And that was taught to us by them because they held the gold in such importance. And so we're wired monkey see, monkey do. Whatever we see them do, that's how we learn. And that's how, if you notice, that's how children learn. They learn watching you do what you do. And parents all the time say, Well, I'm going to teach my children this, and I'm going to teach my children that, and they're going to do what I say. No, they're going to do what you do. They're going to listen to what you say, and maybe out of fear and obedience, they may do what you say for a little while, but if what you're saying and what you're doing are two different things, when they come to that fork in the road, they are going to go with what they see you do and what they see other people around them do. That's why we have to be careful about the influence that this world has on our children. Right now, the devil is working overtime, and his goal is to collect all the souls of the children on this planet. He wants to run the children, and that way he controls the future. Eventually, we're going to be dead and gone, and the children are the future of the planet. And so if you control the children, you control the future. But right now, we have an opportunity to stop that from happening. We have an opportunity to change the direction that things are moving in, and to create a better resource for our children to feed upon, so that they can have the same success that we've experienced with God. Now, all through history, people have been fighting the fight. They've been fighting the fight for civil rights. They've been fighting the fight for equal rights. They've been fighting the fight for just a chance to live in harmony, in peace. And that's what we were designed to do. We're really designed to live in harmony and peace with each other. And that's why there's such a mix-up of different cultures and different people and different backgrounds and different geographical locations. And all these people are supposed to mix together, like I said, and live in harmony. And so one of the things that we see all the time is we see what goes on social media and on the news broadcasts, and we see all these lies that are being told, and we see that anything's acceptable now. And our children are watching that, and they're watching things that used to be, no way, that is not, permissible in this society. That is not permissible in the moral values and the laws that we live by, and the guidelines that we have set up for our people to live by. That is not what God intended. And so all these things are being told to these children by the people that run society, that it's okay to be vain, it's okay to be selfish, it's okay to step on somebody's head to gain monetary value. It's okay to do what you want, do what you feel like doing, do whatever comes natural to you. And so it's become an unnatural thing to worship the Lord. It's become an unnatural thing to go to church. It's become unnatural to even believe in God. And now we have a whole generation of people that will tell you in a minute, oh yeah, there's a higher power, but we're gods within ourselves, and we have to manifest whatever we want in this world. And by manifesting, what they really mean is that we have to pray for what we want. When you manifest for something, pretty much you're praying for it, but who are you praying to? When you say your prayers, there are deities in other realms, in other dimensions, and everybody doesn't understand that. But there are deities in these other realms that will hear your prayers. And if you aren't specific about who you're praying to, they will answer your prayers, and you will think that that answer came from God. Now, one of the problems we have as people is we're very impatient people. We want things to happen right now. We aren't willing to wait. If you think about it, all throughout history, good things have happened to those that wait. Everything doesn't happen on your time. It happens on God's time. Can you imagine a people being enslaved for 400 years, waiting for freedom, waiting for somebody to deliver them, but knowing in their hearts and in their minds the whole time, somebody's coming, somebody's going to help us. We have faith. We believe in that. We understand that it may not happen now, but we're going to fight for it now so that it'll happen in the future. And that's what our ancestors have done for us all throughout history. There have been a set of people that have fought for us, fought for our rights, fought for our fairness, fought for our liberties. All the way through history, you can look back and see that there were people, especially people that look like us, people that look like me, that in this country that have fought for our civil rights. You can find it on the internet. You can look on there and see all the Million Man marches, all the people that protested. You can see how they responded to those people that protested. When I say they, I mean the wickedness in high places of authority and how they responded to what these people were doing. And now we birthed a generation of children who have become complacent with the things that those that came before us have achieved for them. They become comfortable with the modern things of society, the tangible things that represent monetary gain and monetary wealth and a status symbol and things like that. But we wouldn't have access to any of those things if it wasn't for those that came before us. So now it's time to pay it forward. It's time to get it done. And what we're trying to achieve may not happen while we're here, but we know that if we do our part and we move forward, it's going to happen eventually, because we have to teach our children diligently what we've done before they were here. We have to teach them where the rubber meets the road. We have to show them where those that came before us left off and where to pick up the fight. We have to let them know that these opportunities are available. There used to be a time where people that look like us weren't able to get anything in this country. We weren't able to gain any wealth. We weren't able to build any generational wealth. We weren't able to own any property. We weren't able to have bank accounts. We weren't able to vote. We didn't have a voice. We didn't matter. We didn't count. But there were people that stood up and went out there and fought the fight and made it happen. And that's why we're enjoying the little bit of luxury and comfort that we enjoy now. But it's going to come to an end if we don't fight for what's left. You can see that all around this country, they're silently and sneakily. Sometimes it's not that big of a secret, but they're building resistance against what we've accomplished. They're trying to tear down what we built up. They're trying to push us backward from all the forward motion that we've had. And I'll tell you, if you're not careful, all these things that you're enjoying and all these things you're experiencing are going to come to a screeching halt, and you're going to find yourself back in the antebellum days where you can't do nothing and you can't get away with nothing. And that's going to suck because you're not used to it. The people that went through that, they were used to that treatment. They had become accustomed to that treatment. They had adjusted to the ways of the world. But now we've made an adjustment to the ways of the new world, and when they push us back into the old world, that's not going to transition very well. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that doesn't happen. And that's going to come from first thing we must do is we must forgive these people in our hearts for what they did in the past. And when we say people, we mean generational people. We mean bloodline people. We mean people that profited from the gains of those that came before them, that stepped on other people's heads to get where they're at. And the ancestors of the people that built the laws in this country to make sure that we had no access to the generational wealth, to make sure that our communities were going to suffer and be oppressed, to make sure that our children weren't going to have any hope. They wanted to destroy the hope and the dreams of future children, to make sure that the next generation wouldn't even have a hope or a glimmer of what they had access to, and they would keep their mind on the plantation and keep them strapped down so that their wings can't fly and their hinds can't run. They get weary and they'd fall because they weren't used to any opportunities and having the intestinal fortitude to make things happen. But now we've got an opportunity to move forward, and we've got an opportunity to not only hold on to what we have, but to gain something for our future generations, because it's a progressive thing. And right now, we're in a season where things are going to get really bad. And I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news. I'm just trying to let you know to prepare for this. And God has definitely, in all his infinite compassion and understanding and knowledge about what we're about to go through, has given us opportunities to prepare for this. But in order to prepare for this, we have to understand what we're preparing for. And so we need to be prepared for whatever is going to happen next. The fact that, we've been oppressed, and when I say we, I mean the children of Israel back in the biblical days. I mean the people that were here under the thumb of the fallen angels before the flood. I mean, those people have always kept us down and tried to depress us and oppress us and make sure that we were underachievers, and made sure that we didn't have the inspiration and the desire to try to overcome what we were going through, that we would just be happy with what we got so they could have everything else. And now we're living in a time of artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence has developed to the point where it's almost to the point where, these people that came here and their ancestors, they don't need us anymore. They think they don't need us. And they've got the ability to have perfect slaves, not just more intelligent slaves, but these are perfect slaves. These are slaves that are machines. These are slaves that are programmed. These are slaves that do exactly what they're told. They don't need any food. They don't need any water. They don't need any rest. They don't need a vacation. They don't have families. They don't care about things like that. And they just work, and get everything done. And that, if you look back, originally that's what they were looking for. They were looking for slaves on this planet to do whatever they wanted them to do, so that their children would always have slaves. And end up being that it's not the indigenous people on this planet that are populating the planet. It's them that are populating the planet for themselves. And so I know all this is kind of deep for a sermon in church, and a lot of this has scientific value and what do you call it? Archaeological, value. And I mean, you've got to really explore into geography and archaeology and the evolution of modern mankind, anthropology. You got to look into all that to really understand what I'm talking about. But the point is, we're coming into a time where we're going to need somebody to help us. And we're going to need somebody that we need to follow. We're going to need organization. We're going to need structure. We're going to need hope. And we're going to need inspiration. And we're going to need a foundation to build on. We're going to need something solid to carry us through this. And anybody that has lived, a fair amount of time on this earth, we know that there's things that happen that we can't explain. There's things that happen that we don't understand. There's good things that happen to bad people and bad things that happen to good people. But in the end, we know that there's a higher power out there, and we know who the higher power is. And so our job is to spread that word, shed that light, show the path, tell people who they can count on, show them by example what it means to have God bless you. We need to make sure that everybody understands, just like in the scripture that I read, we need to make sure that the whole earth praises God. Everybody in the world praises God. We need to make everybody, and we're not going to be able to do it by ourselves. That's where we call on the help of the Lord to help us do his work, to help us spread his word, to help us show people his good doings and his wonders and his creation. We need to make people understand that this didn't all happen by itself. And we need our children to understand that those things that interest them, those things that excite them, a lot of people are excited by drama. A lot of people are excited by gossip and reality shows and watching people fight each other and watching people bicker and watching people at odds with each other, even to the point where we like movies where there's a lot of killing in the movies. There's a lot of action and adventure, and most of these people aren't godly people. They're ungodly people, but it seems like a lot of fun. It seems like they've got some really cool toys, and it seems like they do some really fun things, and it seems like they go to really cool places. But we can have something better than that. We can show our children something better than that, and you see in the end how it always ends up. The bad guy doesn't win, the good guy wins. The good guy is the one that always comes out on top. Good always overpowers evil, and that's been throughout history. And we've seen evil things done, but good things happen to overcome those evil things, and those evil things have to go somewhere else. But there's always plenty of people for the devil to prey on. But right now he's working overtime. He's got a long way to go and a short time to get there, but he's actually doing fairly well, because he's got a lot of people not believing in God. He's got a lot of people that are confused. He's got a lot of people that are going through trials and tribulations and turmoil. And as long as he keeps us separated, we can never come together and make the good things happen for us. And it's going to take one hand shaking another hand, true fellowship, human betterment, and deeds of kindness. That's when we can feel God's presence. And that's our job, is the human betterment. Every day we have to try to become a better human than we were yesterday. And we know the things we need to work on. We don't need anybody to tell us what we need to work on. Sometimes we need reaffirmment. Sometimes we need somebody to say what we've already been thinking in our hearts and in our minds, but we need to hear it from an outside source, and that reassures us that we're thinking the right direction. And so we know inside our hearts what we need to work on. The true fellowship is going to come from trying to understand where different people come from and why they feel the way they do. And to understand that, you're going to have to understand what they've experienced, what they've been going through as a people, what their generational experiences look like, what their history of their culture looks like, what they went through back in the day. That all determines who they are now and why they walk the way they walk, why they talk the way they talk, and why they believe what they believe. And so once we understand that, then we have a clear path to that true fellowship. That means true fellowship where we really understand, even though we have a different belief, even though we have a different way of life or a different path that we're traveling, we still understand why they're on that path. And so it comes down to it at the end of the day. It's not about being black or white. It's not about being rich or poor. It's not about being tall or short, blonde hair, brown hair, blue eyes, brown. None of that matters. It matters about good and evil. There's a whole lot of different people that have a different approach that are all doing good things. And when we know that we have a covenant with God and we have a responsibility to honor that covenant and fulfill our obligation in that covenant, we also have to understand that God has other covenants with other people. And just because we don't understand about their covenant doesn't mean that it's not a covenant nonetheless. And just because we don't understand what their duties are doesn't mean that they don't have duties nonetheless. And so when somebody comes to us and they say, we want your people to be our people, we want your God to be our God, who are we to say no to that? I mean, sometimes in these churches and these religious factions, there's some seclusion. There's some separation. There's some segregation in their congregation. There's only one kind of people that are going to that church, and I think a true church of God would be a church for many people of many denominations and many backgrounds to all come together on one thing they can agree on, is that this is the Most High God, the everlasting living God. And as long as we're following the same direction and the same God, then we should be doing this together. And once we band together, united we stand and divided we fall. And that's where we have to stand on our own 2 feet. God is there for us, and God's going to get us through the hard times. And sometimes when you call on God to help you, he's not going to show up in a spaceship and say, I am the Lord, and I am going to help you through whatever. No, he'll put it in your mind and in your heart what to do to get through this. He'll work through other people that will come into your presence and say, hey, I'm here to help. And we can do this together. We can stand on our own. God wants us to be independent. God wants us to be responsible on our own. God doesn't want to have to come down here and do every little thing for us. God wants us to have the wherewithal to do these things for ourselves, to think about what needs to be done. And he gave us a mind to be able to calculate and plan these things and then come up with answers and solutions. You know, we aren't babies anymore. You know, we aren't children anymore. Even though we have children, we aren't children on this planet. We have learned and gained lots of wisdom. And the problem is sometimes we forget what we learned. Forgotten knowledge. Sometimes we forget what we saw. We hear it in the Bible all the time. When the children of Israel were rescued from Egypt, they forgot the works of the Lord. They got out there in the desert and started acting stupid, like none of that stuff ever happened. And they were there. They saw it. You can see it in America when things happen. Politicians, do things, or somebody does something bad, and it's all over the news, and everybody's talking about it. And if they quit talking about it, we quit thinking about it. And if we quit thinking about it, we forget it ever happened. That's why right now, as we speak, there are people in this country that are trying to erase the history of this country. They're trying to erase how this country came about. They're trying to make disappear the sacrifices that were made for the achievement of where we're at now. Who built this country? How did they get here? Who brought them here? How did they treat them when they got here? What did they do when that part was over? What are they doing now? How did all this come about? See, if they can make us, the future children, not understand how this all came about, then they can't understand what's going on, and they certainly won't know what's going to happen next. And that's where the wickedness in the high places of authority will have a distinct advantage over the future generations, because they don't know the truth. And right now, while we know the truth, we have to spread the truth. We have to do the work. All of us aren't cut out to get out there and be a police officer, or be a judge, or be a lawyer, or be working in social services, or be working in the court system, or be a teacher, or be a doctor, or anything that's going to help the infrastructure and of not only America, but the whole world, the salvation of the whole. Not all of us aren't geared to do that. All of us can't preach. All of us can't lead. But the ones that feel like they're not equipped, or the ones that feel like they're not able to, some of them will be inspired by what we do as moving forward. And when they get that inspiration, they'll say, I can help. I can do that. Those are the people that are getting where they fit in. But even if you aren't getting in where you fit in, we have to support each other. We have to recognize who's moving forward and who's walking with God. And I tell you, in society, you say, who's walking with God? They, ooh, you hear the oohs and the oh, he's holy, he's the holy one, he's the righteous one, he's walking with the upright. They forgot that when the people came over here to start this country in the first place, even though they ended up stealing the land, or that's a whole nother story, but they came over saying, in God we trust. They came over because they felt like God sent them to a promised land, a land of milk and honey. And they were thanking God for the opportunity to come here. They even said, when they made the country, one nation, under God, indivisible. Well, you can tell that wasn't their intention, because it's not one nation under God. And God's not even in the equation anymore. And it's definitely not indivisible, because they made sure that they set it up with a division so that there always can be chaos. There always can be confusion. There always can be discord. there always can be a separation. And as long as we're separated, we'll never get anything done. We'll never move forward. That's what the devil wants. And he provides all these distractions that we have throughout the day and the night. There's a whole life at night. It used to be, if you look at these biblical times, it used to be a time where when the sun went down, everybody went to bed. And they woke up the next day. Wasn't nothing going on at night. Wasn't no all-night supermarket and no nightclubs and all that stuff happened at night. You went to bed when the sun went down. You better not get caught out after dark. But it ain't like that no more. There's a whole life at night. And we can see where we read in the Bible that the darkness and the light is the same to God. The moon and the sun, all that's the same to God. And so we live in a world that operates 24 hours a day. And it seems like when the sun goes down, that they have songs about that. The freaks come out at night. The freaks come out. And in the horror movies and the scary movies, everything happens when the sun goes down, when it's dark outside. Things go bump in the night. And that's when we're scared because our vision is a little less and we can't really see what's going on. And that's how our vision works. Our vision works because we see things that reflect light, and we see the light bouncing off the object. And if there's no light, there's nothing to bounce off the object, and we can't see what we're looking at unless we see a shadow. And even if we see a shadow, that's some kind of light bouncing off that object to create that shadow. And so we don't see things that happen at night, and that scares us. But we have to open our eyes, and we have to look at everything. We have to make sure that nothing's creeping up behind us and grabbing our children. Because like I said, the children are the future. And we have to teach them diligently about what we're supposed to do and which way we're supposed to go and how we're supposed to go about it. So I think that, I'm not preaching to us. I'm preaching for us, because we all know this. Everybody in this congregation right now, I guess, there aren't that many of us, there's several of us though, but we have access to several other people who have access to several other people who have access to several other people, and it becomes a multitude of people that all get the same teaching as long as we're on the same page. Because that means when we go out of this service today and for the rest of the week, we're going to be spreading the same message to everybody that comes in contact with us. And if we're clear about the message that we're sending, then they will be clear about the message they received, and they can be as clear as possible about repeating that message. That's called that regurgitation. You hear something that sounds exciting, or it sounds true, or it sounds interesting. We want to repeat it. We want to tell it again. We're all storytellers. We want to repeat the story. And sometimes the details get distorted. That's why we have an actual Bible that's a book that's got this stuff written down, because it used to be everything was passed through word of mouth. And we couldn't remember all that stuff. And sometimes the story got stretched. It's like that fish story. The fish was this big. You know what I mean? And times were so hard, everywhere we went was uphill, both ways, back and forth. The story gets stretched, but we have a book with accurate recollection of events and people and things that took place and how God worked in these people's lives. That's the most important thing about this book, is you can really read about how God worked in these people's lives. And when great things happened and these spectacular events took place, these people didn't write God off. They knew who took care of this. They knew who was responsible for this, and they wrote it down in the book. Now modern man has a better explanation for everything. Oh, that was ancient folklore. Those were superstitious people. I mean, times were so hard, they had to have hope. They had to build hope for themselves. So they made up, there being a God. They made up there being a heaven. They made up there being an afterlife. They're made up us having souls and not just rotting in the ground when we die. They made all that up so they could have hope. I don't think so. I don't think so. And if you look into it deep enough, you won't think so either. But that's the whole thing, is we want to inspire people to look. We want to inspire people to learn. We don't want everybody to just take our word for it. We don't want to take each other's word for it. I mean, we're kids, we take the elder's word for it because, we know that the elder is wise and we know they care about us and we know they're trying to teach us the right thing. So we take their word for it. But when we get old enough, now that we're in this technology age, we got phones, they're handheld computers. We can look on there and find out whatever information we want. Matter of fact, there's artificial intelligence on the phone that you can ask a question to, and it will answer you. It gives you an accurate answer and tell you where to look to find the answer. How great is that? I mean, how technologically advanced is that? Can you imagine the children of Israel with a smartphone? How different that would have been if they had smartphones back then. We got smartphones now. We got phones that will tell us what we want to know if we seek the knowledge, if we seek the information. And that's what we want people to do. We already know what's going on. And like I said, we don't want people to just take our word for it. We want people to research this for themselves. We want people to have access to the knowledge themselves. Once you read something for yourself, it's embedded in your mind. It becomes part of your memory, and all you have to do is be able to retrieve that information whenever it's necessary. And so once you have that information embedded in your mind, if you truly believe what you know, that's all of it right there. If you truly believe what you know. And you can try to sell people. I was a salesman before. And so when you try to sell people, you're talking them into something that they don't understand, but you're talking them into believing that you know what you're talking about. So that means whatever you're telling them, you want them to believe that too. But that's not really how it works. Sometimes you can talk people into something, but sometimes you can't. But if you show people things and you show them examples of these things and they have something tangible that they can touch and something visual that they can see, they don't have to just listen. They can see it and they can touch it and they can feel it. And that's how they believe it. They can see your works. They can see that you're doing the right thing. They can see that God is blessing you. That they can see the humbleness in your spirit. They can feel it. They can grasp that. You know what I mean? They can understand that. So I guess I've been talking for a long time because I got this camera in my face and I'm like talking to myself, and I'm my own best captive audience. I mean, I love listening to me talk, and now I'm getting to watch me, with these little facial expressions and all that. And part of this sermon, when I was speaking, I forgot there was other people in the room. I was just talking to myself. I was just going on and on and on. And God was just, filling my heart full of stuff to come out of my mouth, and it was flowing. But I guess in all this, what I want to say is that our job is to work for God. We aren't a people that just have, independence and freedom to do whatever we want. And we aren't, we aren't those people. We're a peculiar kind of people that God chose. We are God's chosen people. And to be God's chosen people, we made a commitment and we made a deal and we made an agreement, and he's been keeping his end of the bargain. You see, Nana's 100 years old. Uncle Joe's 102 years old. My mother's still alive. My children are doing well. We have good health. We have good fortune, good things happen for us, and everybody has a little bit of bad stuff that happens to them. But when it rains here, we get an umbrella. We get shelter from the rain. It may be wet and cold outside, but we're not getting rained on. So, if that's acceptable, then that's who we are. I mean, we're going to do our best and let God do the rest, and we don't need, all these material things and all those. When you get close to God like that, some of the things that you wanted out of life, they begin to change, and you begin to want something different. You begin to see that there are certain things that are way more important than these other things. There are certain things that money can't buy. And so those are the things that are the true blessings. Anybody can save some money and buy a car. Anybody can can get a loan and buy a house. You know what I mean? Even the heathen of the earth and the idolaters and the people that do evil all the time. Most of them have cars and houses and nice clothes and some jewelry to wear and you know and all that, but they don't have that inner peace. They don't have that inner happiness. They don't have that longevity. And when I say longevity on that level, I'm talking about the type of longevity that'll take you through life after life after life after life, the eternal life of our souls. We're talking about that kind of longevity. And so I verily, I say to you, please pay attention to what I say, because this is an important message about our job and what we have to do for God. We're working for God, and this is our job description. This is what we do. This is how we're going to do it, and this is who we're going to target. We have to have a target audience. Well, our target audience is the whole world. All we have to do, we don't have to really have speaking engagements and make appointments to talk to people. All we have to do is live the life and shine the light and let them follow the example. And when everything turns upside down and the chaos hits and the world is, everybody's running astray and it's chaotic and it's confusing and nobody understands what's going on, or we're going to be the calm in the storm. Everybody's going to look at this and wait, why aren't they all stressed out? How come things aren't going like this for them? That's when we're going to have people following us. That's why we need to get our act together, you know? And I guess in that sense, it's not really an act, because that's really how we feel and who we are and what we do, but it's a presentation that we're putting out there for the people. We're presenting to them. We're making them understand, you know, so it's kind of like we're having our act together because we've got to have our presentation together. You know, we've got to have our show together. We've got things to show people, and so we've got to have it together. We've got to at least be organized and understand. The first thing is to understand what we're doing. We have to understand it before we can even hope that somebody else will understand it, because we have to be able to teach them. And so it's been 51 minutes and 24 seconds since I turned this camera on and started this sermon, and so it's been a long sermon. I see people yawning, and I'll be out of your way. You're crying.
I'm crying. This is not right. You can't have people sit down for another hour. Nobody does that.
Really?
I can't.
You see what I'm saying? You hear the? Listen to this. No, hold on. No. Hold on. One at a time, because I want everybody to hear this. So hold on, one at a time. Let Ashley talk first. Let Ashley talk first.
I just feel like they don't do that for a reason. You don't have someone sit down for a 3-hour service. And then, Dad, it'd be different if you were it was so many different points. What was the point? And I'm not even being rude. It was all good information. But really, that's why nobody preaches for that long. It's not nice. It's not. You can't just have people, you're enjoying yourself.
Y'all hear this?
I have to sit down. The longer I sit, the more tired I get.
Complaining about hearing about God.
Dad, this is why.
I'm listening.
You need to find
We're
your
listening.
speaker.
They do what?
Find your speaker.
Why? What's
My
wrong with
phone
yours?
is dead now. It's dead. And I don't know.
What do you mean it's dead now? It's plugged in.
I don't.
It's
Mom,
plugged
you're
in.
next.
Nana, Mom, you guys still there?
I'm literally crying.
Yeah.
Okay, good. No, hold on. We're gonna hear the opinions of a couple more people, and then we're gonna end this sermon. Tony, what would you like to say?
I'm nothing. I did a whole study while you were reading and talking.
Okay, and that's okay.
But I did a whole.
But you said you're not gonna like what I said. What you're gonna say? What am I not gonna like?
That I did a whole study while listening to.
It was a study about what?
About teaching and shepherding and.
So it was a study about what I was talking about, right? It was kind of like an inspiration that went along with what I said our job is and what we're going to be out there doing. That inspired you to do a study about teaching and shepherding.
Actually, I had it on a note, past to do that.
Uh-huh.
But since you just taken.
See, they're complaining about hearing about God. That's what I'm talking about. The devil is everywhere.
I had it on a note
Okay.
card.
What?
Did you help me just?
I helped you. Yeah, I helped you. Okay. What's your Charlotte?
I'm not complaining. I enjoyed the sermon. I mean, I see how the points like kind of came together.
Mm-hmm.
But I drank a whole Red Bull, so
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess, you know, it was a long sermon, and there was a lot that I covered in the sermon. But I understand, but if you look at it all together, some of these things I've talked about before, and so I'm bringing back those points so that I can put it together with things that we're talking about now, and all these things have into play. At the end of the day, the moral to the story is we're going to need God, and we're going to follow God, and God has the plan, and it's not our plan. And by doing that, we're going to be able to show other people how to do that.
I feel like it was longer mostly just because you're recording, so you're adding a lot of like backstory and more information just for like, you know, whoever's gonna watch the video, you know,
Right.
they understand what's going on. But I feel like your sermons usually aren't that long, but it's just because
Right.
They are,
I don't know.
they are.
Got whiners in the house. Give them some cheese. They need some cheese with that
I'm not
wine.
whining, but
Need
I'm
some
saying
cheese with
is,
that wine.
most people do half hour.
Yeah, most
45
people.
minutes,
Most
and they
people.
wrap it all up.
Yeah, most people. I bet God ain't mad.
I'm going back to my room.
I bet God ain't
The
tripping.
Lord bless us and
No,
keep
hold
us.
on. No. It's not the time. Wait. Hold on. Okay. I guess that says it in a nutshell. I guess I talk too much and I talk too long, and so later on I'll just talk to myself and I'll just let people hear what I said to myself, you know, and they can watch it on the video. But I thank the Lord. Hold on. I thank the Lord for everybody that came to this service today and was a part of this. I thank the Lord for the people that listened as long as they could. And if they couldn't listen any longer, I ain't mad at them because they listened as long as they could. And even if they didn't hear everything, they heard enough. And that's why I included all those different things, because different things inspire different things inspire different people. And so maybe one thing I said brought on a light for another person when something else I said brought on a light for this other person. And so hopefully, you know, I got the message across. It's like I don't speak a whole bunch of different languages, but I know a whole bunch of different approaches, you know, for the same thing. And so the bottom line is we need to follow the Lord and understand who God is and what his intentions are for us so that we can show other people and help them through these trials and tribulations that are coming up. That's our job. Amen. So be it.
I'd like to contribute what I thought about the sermon.
Okay.
And that is
There we
that
go.
I did not feel like, I didn't feel like you talked an extra long time. Everything that you said, you know, there were things that you said before, and I see where you were bringing those in and everything. But when you said it's now been 50-something minutes, I looked at it didn't feel like 50-something minutes. It really didn't.
Thank you,
I
Mom.
just want to put that in.
That's what I'm talking
It
about.
was, you know,
That's
it
what I'm talking
wasn't
about.
minutes,
mama.
some
That's my
minutes
mama.
filled with nothing, and some minutes, you know, other
That's my
minutes filled
grandma
with
to me.
some